This is Paul with Archer Services, and today I'm filming a video on how to properly prune a crepe myrtle. So when you go through town and you look at a lot of the crepe myrtles that are along the streets and in yards, there's two different styles that you can go for in a crepe myrtle. One style is a heavily pruned crepe myrtle, where the homeowner just comes in, or yard maintenance guy comes in and just prunes it off at the desired height that you want, or the homeowner wants, to maintain the crepe myrtle. What happens with that is, if you come in and you trim everything right about here every year, you do kind of get a full canopy and stuff in the springtime or all summer, but you end up getting just some straight stalks and then a heavy knot structure right where you always prune it, and then a bunch of small kind of just dead straight sucker limbs. And that's fine if that's the height that you really want to maintain, but to properly prune a crepe myrtle and get the real desired look out of a crepe myrtle, you look at this crepe myrtle and it has kind of a nice V form, and you've got what is a characteristic of crepe myrtles where you have kind of twisting limbs and they kind of go back and forth and split and divide. In order to achieve that, you have to prune the crepe myrtle properly. And what you need to do is, you don't ever need to go out there and get a big ladder and climb way up the tree and do any pruning. You just do everything from the ground. And what you're looking for is any limbs that are rubbing. Like if you have two limbs rubbing together up here and you start to see marks and things right in this area, if these were to be rubbing, then you would want to cut out one of those limbs in order to eliminate that rubbing, because that will allow for disease and things like that to get into the tree. It's like an open wound. Another thing that you're looking for is in the early spring, when they're getting ready to start flushing out their new leaves, you want to come in and trim out a lot of this small stuff. Again, like I said, you don't need to go way up the tree and try and trim everything out from up there. Just do everything that you can reach from a standing position. And you want to trim out, for the most part, all this stuff that's kind of smaller than the size of a pencil. And get all that kind of cleaned out. What that does is opens up the tree and allows for better air circulation and eliminates any of that future rubbing, and it just kind of keeps the tree nice and open and keeps giving it that good structure that you're looking for. The next thing that you want to do, like I said, is you go through and you look for internal limbs that are shooting straight across towards the inside of the tree. You want to try and keep all of your branches moving in an outward way instead of having the ones coming through. You can have a few that are kind of going towards the center to keep the tree nice and full so you don't end up with a hollow structure, but you don't want too many of them that are going towards the center. You want to trim everything away that isn't growing in an outward direction. Then the last thing that you really want to make sure you do when you're pruning a crepe myrtle, when you start making the actual cuts, and that is, you want to make sure that you cut them at the right point. And what I mean by that is, on a crepe myrtle, or any tree in that matter, when you go in to make the cut on the tree, you want to get in there really nice and close to kind of the joint. You don't want to leave, like if this is the cut right here that I'm going to make, I'm going to cut off this branch. You don't want to cut way out here. You want to cut it as close into that joint as you possibly can. So another spot would be like right in here. If I'm going to cut this branch here, I want to bring my pruners in all the way to that hip right there and make my cut right there at that point. If you end up cutting it way out here and you leave this 2 or 3 inches, what's going to happen is that's going to die off. And it's going to take time for that tree to get rid of that, and it kind of becomes in a little bit of a wound. But the main thing is it creates a really big knot right there, because it's going to wait for that limb to die off, and then it's going to start to heal over that, and you'll just get one of those big knots. And what happens is, if you start to put your crepe myrtle on this program, you'll get this beautiful shape out of your crepe myrtle, and then over time, the bark of your crepe myrtle, you can see a little bit of it has happened right here, and right in here and here. And as the tree gets older and older, you begin to get this effect off of the crepe myrtle. It's called papering. Typically, you only get this when the tree is maintained properly like this. Sometimes they'll do it if you're trimming it the other way, but this is usually what it takes. And it's a good characteristic of these trees, and it's where this old bark all lifts off and just peels off in giant sheets. It's really, really neat when you go and look at it. I mean, they come off in nice big rolls, and then you can come in there under that, and the bark underneath that is just like silk smooth. Really, really nice. And that's when you have your crepe myrtle doing that like all at once and just coming off in big sections, you really know that your crepe myrtle is thriving and it's extremely healthy. And if you just follow those couple of key things, you'll get a beautiful crepe myrtle in no time at all. Again, this was Paul with Orchard Services. Please follow us or subscribe to our channel. Thanks.